Are live. Hey everybody, it's Janae, aka the Mobile Monger again, and I am here with Jessica and Liza from Sweetgrass Dairy. So why don't you guys go ahead and tell me all about Sweetgrass?
Sure. Well, again, my name is Jessica, and I'm a co-owner of Sweetgrass Dairy. We are located in Thomasville, Georgia, which is in the southwest part of the state. We've been making cheese since 2000. It was started by my parents, Al and Desiree Weiner. And what we try to do is show off the milk from our cows out on grass. Jeremy and I moved back to this area shortly after the creamery was founded, and we were able to buy it in 2005, and we continue on using my parents' milk and really trying to show off the unique milk and terroir and everything that we have here in this area. We've also started a restaurant that was opened in 2010, so we juggle between the creamery and the restaurant here in South Georgia.
Awesome. How many cheeses do you make and what styles are they?
So we have a core line of 6. We make all cow's milk cheeses. So we have fresh, soft ripened, and some raw milk aged cheeses, including a natural rinded blue. Then we do some different seasonal specialties, but we are also in the process of building a new cheese facility that will allow us to expand that line, which we are all really excited about.
Awesome. So can you give me a snapshot of what your business looked like pre-COVID, like widely distributed? Did you have an online presence in terms of online sales? Like what did that look like?
Sure. So Jeremy and I both came from the food service world. So we really focused on building our brand and selling wholesale and distribution predominantly through food service. And we also knew that with this new production facility, we needed to sell more to kind of jump to that next level. We're in this very awkward phase where we're a little bit too big to be small and just selling locally, but a little bit too small to be big. And for the last 3 years, we've been designing this new cheese facility. And for 2 years, I was looking for a national sales manager to really help us tell the story and grow to be a national brand. It's Liza. And she can tell you a little bit more about kind of our placement on that. But we have always done mail order ever since we moved back to the farm in 2002. We've always done Christmas and corporate gift boxes. And but we do not have a big farmers market presence. I mean, our county is only 50,000 people. So when we did do farmers markets, we had to drive to Atlanta, which is about 3.5 hours away. So, but Liza, would you like to chime in and talk about kind of our presence on a national level?
Yeah, sure. I think, so I joined the Sweetgrass Dairy team in July of 2019. So I haven't been here for even a year. And I live on the West Coast in San Francisco. So big part of what I was trying to do is specifically help Sweetgrass grow out West. But yeah, I've been really, since food service has always been their bread and butter and has been going really well, I wanted to grow that, but also help grow retail accounts on a more national level. So specialty food focused chains that have mongers and do a really good job have been my focus, and takes time to get going with all of those kind of retailers. So we are sort of in that limbo there as well, where we were planning to launch with several of those retailers in the spring. Since I started in July, there was a very short window for me to do anything with retail before the holidays or for the holidays. So the San Francisco Fancy Food Show was when I was really kind of able to first focus on getting people set up, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So there was a lot planned for the spring, as well as more food service distribution. We're still growing on that side. And yeah, it's been a work in progress. So
Yeah. So now the opposite end of that, how are things looking in COVID times, if you will?
Well, I'm glad that we're talking this week instead of 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I was telling Liza yesterday that I actually feel a little more hopeful this week than I have recently, and maybe I'm just tired of being worried. But so looking at our numbers, our distribution sales from year over year for the month of April were down about 68%, which is devastating, but we are up about 1,100% in mail order for the month of April. So when we factor all of that together, we're down about 39, 40%. So it's not great, but we are starting to see a couple of POs coming in, and Liza's been working so hard at talking to different buyers, and there are people out there that want to support, family-owned small creameries, and so I do feel like there's some glimmers of hope. This might be early, but it feels like it's maybe changing a little bit.
Yeah, it's been a mixture of people that certainly just don't have time or have to push back whatever we had originally talked about, of course, which is understandable. We did have one new distributor still come on board in March, which was the original plan, so that was a gift. Yeah, I don't know, it's kind of been a blur, but still trying to plan for the summer as best as possible. So, mixture of, in retail, it's always about planning for the future. Still doing that, but also obviously very focused on a day-to-day basis of what can I do today to move cheese tomorrow. Since most of our cheeses are raw milk, we had to make them in January, let's say, to really be, selling in March and April. So because we have such heavy food service distribution normally, and we were planning to bring on several new customers through the spring, we have a lot of cheese. Yeah, that didn't get sold. So yeah, it's been a mixture.
Yeah. So have you had to have any waste, or have you been like donating stuff, or is it just kind of getting to that point where you need to push it out of the caves now?
Yeah, so we are definitely at the point where we are trying to make more room especially for the promotions this summer that haven't been canceled. So we're offering some discounts, on our aged cheeses. We have worked with our local food bank, but also through the Giving Kitchen and other organizations in Atlanta that we're trying to reach out to the food service affected employees that we're trying to connect there and get, make some room in the coolers, as well as a good thing, trying to donate some, specifically Thomasville Tome is what we're really long on. But yeah, we're definitely packed to the max right now. So we need to make some space.
Well, and I'm sure with your mail order kind of going crazy, you've had to shift some employees over to other areas that maybe they weren't necessarily doing before. So how many employees do you have?
So between the two businesses, of the restaurant and the creamery, we had 54 total employees. Currently, we're down to about 30. So we had to temporarily lay off roughly 19 from the restaurant just because we had to go to curbside only, and then only 5 from the cheese plant. But of the 5, they were more getting started training in the pack team, and that's where most of the labor. So we've transitioned some of the production team over to packaging, which is a little bit of a steep curve and a lot more work going into all of the mail order pieces. But I keep telling them, like, we're so thankful for the sales. So we'll sit here and cut little pimento cheeses and cut Thomasville Tomes all day long if we have to.
Yeah. Is there any other avenues and strategies that you're doing besides curbside, you said, and then mail order? Is there any other revenue streams that you've found that you're pursuing?
Well, the cheese shop in particular, it feels like we've had to reinvent that. And the cheese shop has been so important to our business because it has allowed us, cash flows, it basically covers our payroll for each week. So we were really reliant on it just for the cash flow, how it came through the business. And so at the cheese shop, immediately when we had to switch over to curbside only, we lost over 70% of our sales, which I think is pretty standard for restaurants. That's what I'm hearing. And we've clawed back to be about 50% down by adding meal kits and wine and cheese tasting kits and family meals and brunch specials and you name it. We're just adding so many new things there. And, mail order wise, I think that we've offered some like for instance, our Mother's Day gift box has a heart-shaped green hill, and Jeremy has been able to, make some very special cheeses just for that, which, we haven't really done that too much in mail order. So that was, I guess, some different strategies to play with.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did like quarantine blues as a box that you could buy on our mail order site, which, trying to kind of stay timely, and a personal pimento party for your house and things like that. On my side, I'm also trying to engage with more online retailers than ever before. Meal kit companies, there's actually a lot of them based out in California. So that still takes time, but I don't think it's a bad thing that I've had to kind of quickly look at those mail order or like online companies, because they might be good partners for a while. Just wasn't really top of my mind before, to be honest. Yeah.
I don't think it was on
Yeah.
anybody's top of mind until this kind of happened. I mean, it was one of those things where it was a thing that people were starting to get into, but I think we've definitely seen that shift where people are 100% on board now, whereas they were only, 40% on board before. So.
And even retailers that we already were working with, such as Buy Right Market in San Francisco, the fact that they were able to pass on a discount that we were offering and actually have it as part of their Instacart like offering was huge. Like just the fact that the retailer took the time to also engage, and Instacart's not for everybody, and there's lots to be said, but we'll take anything right now.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So have you guys done any like cut and wrap, like cryovac, anything like that, smaller portion sizes for retailers? Because I know a lot of retailers have been asking for that. Have you guys shifted to anything like that at all?
We have, and it definitely taxed our packaging team. We can vacuum seal 2 pieces at the time, 2. And we just sent out an order yesterday that Liza had worked out with St. James Cheese Company for an online thing that they're doing through Commander's Palace for 480 pieces. So it took a couple of days to have, the vacuum seal machine. So it's not something that we want to do long term, but definitely people are asking for cut and wrap more so now than ever. I don't ever remember a time.
And, I remember having that conversation with St. James a couple months ago. Would you guys do this for us? And I was like, just really can't. I'm so sorry. One of our distributor offers a pre-cut version of our tome. So maybe try them. And now it was like complete opposite conversation of, you want some tome? Okay, we'll cut it for you. And of course, there's almost like a guiltiness that I have knowing that it's going to kill our team, but we have to sell anywhere we can right now. So
yeah,
well, we were happy for the sales. So
yeah,
they're happy to be busy and not have their hours.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, numerous people I've talked to so far have kind of mentioned that a lot of people have asked for it. And, even Andy and Mateo were kind of like, we don't really want to, but we're playing around with it because might be the future. Who knows? So
Andy's point about actually being able to control it, if it's going to be cut with him versus cut at a shop or retailer that maybe isn't taking the best care of the cheese, I thought that really resonated with me. And I hope people hear that because I was a monger, and there's always that thing in the back of your head of like, this is bad, but we need to do this right now. I mean, to stay alive, kind of, so yeah.
So how has this affected your affinage practices at all? Because I was talking to Cascadia Creamery, and they have too much product in their cave, so they've actually had to start cooling things down to kind of put it into stasis. Is that anything that you guys are anywhere near, or is a thought process that you have?
So we almost immediately, when we saw all of our food service distributors canceling their POs, I guess roughly a month ago or so, we immediately dropped our production schedule so that we were only making soft ripened cheeses and maybe a batch of Thomasville Tome per week that goes into pimento. So those are our only 2 individual UPC cheeses. So we were able to really halt production. My parents have the cows, so they sell 100% of their milk to the co-op, and we actually buy milk from the co-op to make cheese. So we were able to slow that down. So no, we haven't had to put anything into stasis. The oldest cheeses that we have in the coolers right now were made in January. So we're still in a good space. We don't have anything that's been sitting there for 8 months or anything like that. So yeah, we might get to that point, but we haven't had to change that yet.
That's good. That's a tough situation to be in, to ride that line of like, is it too much in there? What's going on?
Yeah.
Well, you know, the thing is that it's so hot in South Georgia, we do not want to age things any longer than we have to. So we're not trying to sit on, you know, cheeses that we age for a year or anything like that. So maybe that was a advantage of not having longer aged cheeses.
Yeah, but I think that that's also a good thing to note too, because in like talking to Andy, he said that, you know, his cheeses can age out for quite some time and it's not really a problem, but you have a different temperature that you have to think about. So it's not like you could do an extra aged Thomasville Tome and it's going to be like this beautiful thing. It's like, things get a little weird.
There's a window. Yeah. Sure.
Let's see. So has this affected any thoughts about things that you make now currently that you maybe might not take into the future, or like have some ideas on new cheeses that you might look into adding to your lineup at all?
Well, when we hired Liza and you know, have finally broke ground on the new production facility, the goal was, for the last 10 years, we've been trying to manage scarcity. We just haven't really been able to make enough. And so our goal was to get into the new plant and increase the quality and the quantity of the cheeses, the current line that we're making. And we had talked about playing with some different packaging sizes, you know, having some exact weight. But I think that the goal is going to be, I think we're going to have to do some exact weight pieces and maybe invest a little bit more in the packaging equipment than we thought we were going to. But as far as new cheeses, I think we just haven't really had a lot of time lately to do some R&D and really think about new cheeses to add. So maybe we'll have to cross that bridge in the future, but I think we'll be able to stay with our core and maybe offer them in some different sizes. What would you say, Liza?
Yeah, I think, like you said, we were already thinking about more exact weight UP-seed items because they do tend to work better in the retail setting. But yeah, I think the idea of kind of having the time to think about R&D right now is a little, it's just not where we're at, you know. But it's really about getting into this new facility, and then we'll have a lot of room to play and grow. So we're just waiting, and you know what, we're a month behind schedule on that right now, but which isn't too bad, and frankly probably is normal in any construction. We're looking forward to that. So
that's interesting, because Nettle Meadow was also talking about they're doing construction right now, and you would think that they would just be able to get in there and do things because maybe things have slowed down, but then they've also had to deal with social distancing. Have you guys, is that part of why it's kind of taking a little bit longer?
Well, I think that my understanding from our contractors is that it's actually the equipment. We have some coolers that are coming from France that get delayed, and you know, coming because of closed borders, and the Qualtech people are going to be coming down, and they're waiting for some equipment from Canada, and then so yes, I think it's more to do with the equipment and less about, you know, social distancing.
Yeah. Let's see. So is there any recommendations that you would have for a cheese company that's just getting started now? Like things that you would think that need to be in the business plan, things that they need to be forefront of their minds currently, or just any suggestions for people out there doing it?
Yeah, what a crazy time to start a creamery. I think the one big lesson that, I mean, I think that I knew, but is so important, is just not putting too many eggs in one basket. You know, when we look back, about 65% of our sales were in food service. It's just really hard when all of that is gone just immediately overnight and trying to build back from that. So being a little bit more diverse, or having, I know, like, especially with our cheese shop at the restaurant, that everything has gone very local. And so the community is really rallying behind to try to save small businesses. So, having a really big presence locally, and having that, being able to sell, in multiple different ways, I think is a really good, don't put all of your eggs in one basket, and definitely, have different customers, different distributors that work with retail and food service. And because it really, having so much in food service was just hard, honestly, to all of a sudden watch all that and not really know when it's going to come back online.
Right. I think it applies to the milk side too, right? So your parents sell milk to the co-op in addition to us, so they did have an outlet there, although it sounds like that's not going to be a perfect solution right now. Jess can talk more about that, but we're, I guess, lucky in that way that there is at least someone to take milk when we can't take it all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're only getting paid about 82% of the total. So whatever they make, they get paid for 82% of it for the month of April, and they don't know what that amount's going to be for May yet. They haven't announced that. So, yeah, I think it's definitely harder for them. And I think for any cheesemaker that's starting out, just going back to, I think it's important to always kind of maintain a connection to the end consumer. If it's, whether it's mail order or through a restaurant or through farmers markets, that, those are the people that, feel so much of a vested interest in your success. And so I think we have been transitioning further and further away from that to go almost all through distribution. And I think that right now we're seeing how important it is to have those relationships.
Absolutely. So can you tell me a little bit about your parents' farms? Like, how many cows do they have? Like, what does that structure look like?
Sure. So they have 3 different dairy farms, and there's roughly 500 cows on each farm. It's 350 acres and divided up into 5-acre paddocks. So we are in one of the very few areas of the country where we have unlimited water. We sit on top of the 2nd largest aquifer in the nation, and very mild winters. We don't get snow. So we're able to rotate cows to a new pasture every 12 hours. So it's a unique, I say it's unique, it's a New Zealand rotational grazing style. It was unique for them when they started it in 1993. And the milk was just so different that the creamery was born out of my mom's desire to show people the difference. Because they had farmed conventionally. And when they switched over, it's a predominantly Jersey herd, and the richness and the grass base, it was just so flavorful. So now my brother is involved, and we know that the future of, so he's a 5th generation dairy farmer now, the future for him to be able to continue to dairy is hinged on us being able to make more cheese. So because the dairy business is difficult and not necessarily sustainable for small dairies. And so that's a big part of why we decided to build a new facility, because we want to be able to use more of that milk. And the size of our facility was based on being able to use at least 500 cows worth. So that's our goal to get there.
Awesome. I think that it's still unique for the United States to have any sort of rotational grazing thing going on. Living in Washington, people here, like Oregon and Washington, consumers all the time are like, why isn't there more grass-fed cheese? Like, we have so much grass. We should just be able to have all this grass-fed cheese. I'm like, have you ever seen a cow try to go out in rain? They really don't like it. It rains way too much to have all year round grass-fed. So it's definitely a unique thing you've got going on down there.
Well, we do we work very closely with a professor at the University of Georgia, and he wrote a book called Southern Forages, and it's really helped us measure the organic matter in the soil and see how we're, sequestering carbon. And he said that when he did the studies and looked at it, there was less than 5% of all dairies were rotationally grazed. So you're right. I think it is a unique thing. And we hope that we can continue and have future generations to continue on the legacy.
Wow, less than 5%. That's like such a tiny number in the grand scheme of dairying. It's that's
Yeah.
pretty amazing. Um, I wanted to touch on the restaurant side of things. Like I know that Georgia has some different restrictions going on. So what is that looking like for you guys?
Sure. So we were all blindsided, I think everybody in the state, when our governor announced that as of this past Monday that you could reopen. But when he made the announcement, there were no recommendations or requirements, restrictions, as far as how many people could go in. And immediately, I think we went back to panic mode. We just like, oh my gosh, what is going to happen? And how do we, we work so hard at keeping our employees separated, washing hand stations. I mean, we're already such an industry that's set up to be, more sanitary, I think, than most. But at least it felt like we were kind of quarantining together, going home, coming back, going home, coming back. And now, I can't say you're not allowed to go to a restaurant or you can't go to the bowling alley because they're open. But the good news, what makes me feel a little bit better is that even in our small town, there's really most of the businesses haven't opened. The movie theaters didn't open, the bowling alleys didn't open. The only restaurants that have opened have been like Waffle House and some of the larger chains. So none of the retailers in our little downtown area where the restaurant is have opened. So I don't know what it looks like moving forward, but all of the small business owners that I've talked to, no one's quite ready yet to open until we have better science and more recommendations to keep our staff and our community safe. I don't know what that looks like moving forward, but it was definitely, I don't know why those decisions were made.
And I just have to ask because it's a silly question, but is bowling a big thing in Georgia? Like, why?
Is it not a big thing everywhere? When you live in a town of 20,000 people, there's not a lot to do. So yes, the bowling alley is usually busy.
I mean, my hometown, most of my nieces and nephews' birthday parties, to be honest, are held at the bowling alley because it's a good, easy way to get the kids, So I get it, but at the same time, it just seemed like a very pinpointed section to be like, bowling alleys can open. Like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So kind of a big last question. How can mongers, shop owners, distributors, how can they help you right now to move through some of that product, and what can we do to help you, basically?
Liza, what would you say?
Oh, wow. It's such a great question. Ordering direct from our website is definitely helpful, but we also are trying to keep our distributors and retailers alive. And it's just a strange time when you're trying to reach out to someone and you're struggling and they're struggling, and it's like, how can we help each other, but we're both struggling? I don't know. But just continue to spread the gospel about American cheese. I was talking to someone this week about how ironic and crazy is it that American Cheese Month was moved to May this year. Like, this is the time to celebrate American cheeses, all cheeses, of course, but it just, it's tough when you're just a family-owned company and you only have your own resources to go off of. So just continue to buy cheese. I think in any way that works for you. I'm not sure what else to say.
Yeah. I know it's a big question right now, but it's just, I wanted to make sure that if you have some specific thing that you need right now, that we can address it. So, but it sounds like by Thomasville Tome.
Yeah, by Tome.
Specific ask, yes.
Yeah, is there anything else that you feel like we didn't touch on or that you really feel like needs to be said?
Well, I again, thank you for capturing all of our stories. I think that, I made the comment to a writer about when we sat down with our accountant right after we lost all the POs in a month ago, and I said, how long can we last? Like, what does this look like? Can we weather the storm? And he said, well, you probably can if you make some serious changes for about 3 months. And then after that, we don't know. And, I've spent my whole entire adult life growing this business. It's like my first child. I love it so much. And it felt like such a terminal diagnosis that everything that I worked for was going to be gone in a heartbeat. But, I think that probably looking back, I'll just have this black, place where I won't remember how bad it was. But I am thankful that you're capturing these stories and making the ask. Mateo has a hashtag where he says, choose it or lose it. So choose American cheesemakers or American cheeses or you lose them. And I think that there's some truth to that. And just keeping American cheese relevant, I think right now is so important. And so that we're not just focused on buying the beans and the toilet paper and all the essentials. So I really appreciate you taking the time to tell our stories, because we're so head down in the trenches, just trying to survive right now. So it's important what you're doing. So thank you.
Well, I say this often, but producers are the cornerstone of my career, and that's who I'm here to serve. And the consumers also, but you guys do all the really hard work, and I just get to stand around and talk about cheese and sell it happily. So, for me, it's a pleasure to do. And I'm just so thankful that you guys are here. And also your story is so fantastic and so special that I think that is something that we can all take with us to the end consumer. So, yeah. I think that there's still a lot of hope there. It's just, we have a new normal. We're just not sure what it's going to look like. So hopefully we'll start to see patterns move back up. So I'm going to go ahead and end this, and thanks everybody for tuning in.
Thank you.
Thank you.